Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into something interesting. A batch of interview questions from Pelican AI.
Yeah, and looking through them, it seems pretty clear they're heavily focused on databases, and all the tech surrounding them.
Exactly. So our goal here for you, the learner, isn't just to list the questions. It's to really unpack what Pelican AI is looking for. What skills, what mindset.
hmm Think of it as getting a peek behind the curtain. So whether you're actively job hunting in tech, maybe just need a refresher on database stuff, or you're just curious about what an AI company values.
We've tried to sift through it all and pull out the core ideas.
Right. We want to understand the why behind these questions.
And it's quite a mix. We've got some really technical database things, SQL, stored procedures, functions, triggers, that sort of thing.
But then there's also software testing questions and even those more general problem-solving or HR type questions too.
So quite a bit to cover. Let's jump in.
Okay, maybe start with the absolute basics. Database fundamentals. It's clear from, well, pretty much all the question sets we saw that SQL is huge.
Oh, definitely. It's right there at level one. What is
Another
SQL?
question. This is
Right,
important, right?
totally. It's not just about knowing the acronym, structured query language. It signals they expect you to get its core job, talking to databases, managing data. It's kind of the
The
baseline.
common language for data.
Exactly. And they don't just leave it there. They ask about the different command types. DDL, DCL, DML, TCL, DQL.
Right. Which sounds like alphabet soup, but
Huh. Yeah, but it shows they want someone who gets the whole picture. Like DDL for building things, DML for working with the data, DCL for permissions, TCL for transactions. Knowing the categories means you know which tool to grab.
it's about understanding the life cycle, not just one part.
Right.
Then store procedures and functions, they come up a lot.
They do. And a key thing highlighted specifically in one of the level one sets is the difference between them, especially around outputs.
Outputs, how so? Well, the general idea is a function is built to return one specific value. Think of it like, I don't know, a calculator function. You put
Mhm.
something in, you get one answer out.
Okay.
A stored procedure, though, is more versatile. It can do a bunch of things, maybe return several sets of results, or maybe nothing directly back at all. It's about performing an action or a series of actions.
So it's about knowing which one fits the task better. Precision versus broader action.
Precisely. And the fact it's asked repeatedly suggests it's a concept they really care about.
All right. What about views? They're mentioned too.
Ah, views. They're like
Ugh.
custom windows onto your data. They don't hold data themselves, right? They just show data from underlying tables based on a query you've set up.
So why is that useful for a company like Pelican AI?
Well, imagine you have complex data. Maybe different teams need to see different things. Views let you give them just the slice they need without exposing everything. It's good for simplicity and security, too.
Makes sense. Tailored access. And alongside views, we see triggers mentioned quite a bit.
Yeah, triggers are interesting. They're like automatic actions. You set one up, and it fires automatically when something specific happens in the database, like an insert, update, or delete on a table.
So automation for data rules?
Kind of, yeah. Think data integrity. In an AI context, you really need clean, reliable data. Triggers can enforce rules, maybe log changes, maintain consistency automatically whenever data is touched. Them showing up repeatedly points to a focus on automated data quality checks.
Okay, so theory and automation, then they get practical, asking about queries on empdep table and the group by clause.
Right. This shows they don't just want definitions. Can you actually use SQL? Knowing what group EBY does, grouping rows with similar values, is one thing.
But can you apply it to, say, analyze employee data?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you take a standard scenario like employees and departments and pull up meaningful summaries? It's about applying the knowledge.
And managing the database itself seems important too. They ask about objects in database and exceptions.
Yep. Database objects, that's just the term for all the pieces. Tables, views, indexes, stored procedures, triggers, all the things we're talking about. You need to know the building blocks.
Exceptions.
Those are the errors, the unexpected problems that can pop up when code runs. Good database development isn't just about the sunny day scenario. It's about knowing how to handle it when things go wrong so the whole system doesn't fall over. Robustness.
Speaking of things not falling over, roll back and commit. Sounds fundamental.
Oh, absolutely central to keeping data safe. They're about managing transactions, groups of database operations. Commit basically says, save all these changes permanently.
And rollback.
That's the undo button. If something goes wrong halfway through a transaction, rollback wipes out all the changes from that transaction, putting the database back like it was before you started. Crucial for consistency.
Gotcha. And related to deleting data, they specifically ask about truncate versus delete and the rollback part for truncate. That feels like a classic interview. Gotcha.
It is a common one
Mm.
because they work differently. Delete removes rows one by one and usually logs it, so you can often roll it back.
Okay.
Truncate, though, is much faster. It basically yanks all the data out by resetting the table structure, but because it doesn't log individual row deletions in the same way, you typically cannot roll back a truncate.
So, faster but riskier if you make a mistake. Understanding that trade-off is key.
Exactly. Shows you understand performance and recovery implications.
Then they get into data types, what type stores images, and blob versus clob.
Yeah, practical stuff. How do you store different kinds of data? Blob, binary large object, that's for things like images, audio files, video. Binary data,
And clob.
character large object. That's for storing huge chunks of text, like documents or long descriptions. Using the right one is about efficiency.
Makes sense. And of course, SQL isn't just numbers. String manipulation comes up.
Oh yeah, extracting letters, counting things, reversing strings, pulling out words, using substrings.
Plus that specific Venkatesh example they used.
Right. It all points to needing practical skills for cleaning and shaping text data, which is, super common in real-world applications. Can you actually write the SQL to solve these little text puzzles?
Okay, that covers a lot of the foundational ground. Let's shift gears a bit to the more advanced stuff, like SQL versus PL SQL.
Good point. This moves beyond just querying. PL/SQL, specifically Oracle's version, adds procedural stuff loops, conditions, variables right into the database logic.
Why do that?
Performance, often. If you have complex logic involving multiple steps on the data, doing it in the database with PL/SQL can be way faster than pulling data back and forth to an application layer for each step. It's mentioned in level 2 in the second round, so clearly relevant for more complex tasks.
And just like basic SQL, they ask about exceptions here too in PL SQL, that theme of robust code again.
Definitely. Procedural code means more places things can go wrong, so knowing how to anticipate errors, catch them, and handle them gracefully within your PL/SQL code is vital for building reliable systems.
They also circle back to stored procedures, functions, and triggers at level 2, but maybe looking deeper, like SPCs versus triggers again.
Yeah. Drilling down on the differences, the core distinction they might probe here is how they get activated. You explicitly call a stored procedure when you need it,
Right.
but a trigger, as we said, it's implicit. The database fires it automatically based on an event, like an insert or update. You don't call it directly. Understanding that invocation difference is key to knowing when to use which.
Got it. And they ask about the structure of these queries too, like SP structure, trigger structure, even update query structure.
Yeah, it suggests they want you to be comfortable actually writing them. Knowing the syntax, the essential clauses like set and where in an update statement isn't just memorization. It means you understand how they work.
Yeah.
You can use them correctly and safely.
Can't mess up your updates. Okay, and joins and foreign keys. These feel like the absolute heart of relational databases.
They really are. Joins are how you pull related information together from different tables. That's fundamental querying power.
And foreign keys.
Those are the glue. They enforce the relationships, ensuring data integrity. Like, you can't have an order for a customer that doesn't exist. These concepts pop up frequently because, well, they're essential for any relational database work.
And to make sure all that joining and querying is fast, indexes, they ask why use them.
Right. Indexes are all about performance. Like an index in a book, they help the database find the data it needs much, much faster without scanning whole tables. Critical for dealing with large data sets, which you'd expect in an AI company.
Okay, so deep database knowledge is clear, but interestingly, they branch out. Software testing comes up.
Yeah, and level 2, it shows they value quality across the board, not just in the database. They specifically ask about black box versus white box testing.
Can you give us the quick difference there?
Sure. Black box is testing from the outside, like a user would. You check inputs and outputs without knowing the internal code. Does it do what it's supposed to do?
And white box.
That's testing from the inside. You know the code, the structure, and you design tests to check specific paths and logic within the code. Knowing both shows a broader view of ensuring software quality.
Moving even wider, RDBMS versus DBMS, what's the distinction they might be looking for?
Okay, so DBMS database management system is the big umbrella term for any software that manages databases.
Got it.
RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, is a specific type of DBMS. The kind most people think of, with tables, rows, columns, and relationships, typically using SQL. So Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, those are RDBMSs. But there are other kinds of DBMs, like NoSQL databases.
Okay, so RDBMS is a subset of DBMS. Then we see quick mentions of normalization, cursors, and then a leap to things like Kubernetes, Docker, AWS, Agile, Waterfall. Wow.
It is a leap.
Yeah.
Formalization is about designing your database tables efficiently to reduce redundancy. Cursors let you process query results row by row, sometimes needed, but often less efficient.
And the others, Kubernetes, Docker, AWS.
That signals they're interested in the modern tech stack for deploying and running applications. Cloud infrastructure, containerization. It suggests the database doesn't live in isolation. Knowing Agile and Waterfall just shows awareness of different ways software gets built.
So they value context, understanding where the database fits in the bigger picture.
Seems like it. Even if your main job is databases, knowing a bit about deployment or development methods helps.
And it keeps going. Basic Angular and JavaScript concepts mentioned too. OPS, callbacks, event loop, type of.
Yeah, it's not deep front end, but suggests maybe some appreciation for full stack awareness, or at least the ability to communicate with developers working on other parts of the system. Adaptability.
All right, shifting from pure tech now. All these interviews are peppered with problem solving and soft skill questions.
Nah.
That movie plan with friends one is interesting.
It is. And the variation about convincing friends, these aren't about the movie plan itself, right?
No, it's how you think.
Exactly. How do you plan? How do you communicate? Can you organize things, persuade people? It's a window into those skills. Same with that sponsoring a movie idea. How do you approach commitment and follow through?
And then the classics. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And why should we hire you? They pop up everywhere.
Standard for a reason. 5 years probes your ambition, your career goals. Do they align with the company? Why hire you is your direct pitch. Your chance to connect your skills and value directly to their needs. You need a crisp answer for that.
Tell me about yourself also appears multiple times, more than just an icebreaker.
Definitely. It's your first chance to frame your story. Not just reciting your CV, but highlighting what's most relevant for this job for Pelican AI.
And they seem interested in specific projects, like that CDAC project, asking about the candidate's role.
Shows they value concrete experience. Can you talk clearly about what you actually did, what your contribution was in a team setting? That's important.
The HR round gets more personal family background, hobbies, strengths, weaknesses, even the pandemic experience.
Yeah, that's about cultural fit, personality, self-awareness. Are you someone who can reflect on challenges? Are you well-rounded? They're trying to get a sense of the whole person.
And practical stuff like comfort with extended shifts or managing workload.
Right. Understanding your work ethic, resilience, flexibility. Important considerations for the reality of the job.
One really good piece of advice that came out was about asking questions back at the end. The example given was asking about work culture at Pelican.
Absolutely crucial. Asking smart questions shows you're engaged, you're interested, you've thought about it. Asking about culture shows you care about the environment, not just the tasks. It makes a good impression.
And I liked that proactive move someone made, confirming if the interview was Java-focused or not beforehand.
Smart. Which is initiative, respects everyone's time, ensures clarity. Little things like that matter.
So, wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the big picture message for you, the learner, from all these Pelican AI questions?
I think the core message is,
Yeah.
yes, you need a really solid foundation in databases, especially SQL. Understand the concepts, know how to apply them. But it's not just that.
Right.
They also value awareness of the broader tech world, testing, deployment, maybe some development basics, and critically, those softer skills, problem solving, communication planning, self-awareness. They're building a team, not just hiring technical skills in isolation.
A well-rounded picture. That makes a lot of sense. So, whether you're deep in tech or not, it's interesting how these questions often just boil down to understanding systems, solving